So what role are labor unions playing in the 2012 election cycle? And are their activities any different from other special interest groups that have dominated the headlines since this year's political campaigns began? Joining me now to offer his insight on the labor vote in 2012 is Phillip Dine, a journalist focused on labor and politics and author of State of the Unions: How Labor Can Strengthen the Middle Class, Improve Our Economy, and Regain Political Influence. Phillip Dine, welcome to The Heat.
Pleasure to be with you.
Did you make sure that the president got a copy of this? I'm sure a lot of people in labor would hope that he has.
No, that short answer I'll give you. When it initially came out in 2008, actually several candidates read it on both sides, and Hillary Clinton wrote me a nice note about it. Bill Clinton told me it was a great book. I didn't have as much success getting then Senator Obama to read it, even though I covered him because I was working with a Missouri, Illinois newspaper, and couldn't really get it past his staff.
Does he have a labor problem?
Oh, you cut right to it, don't you? Yes.
How serious?
I think fairly serious. I mean, it's not a labor problem in the sense that labor unions won't endorse him. They will, and they have. And it's not a labor problem in the sense that most labor folks aren't going to vote for him or will vote for his opponent. The problem is that there's not much enthusiasm among the rank and file within labor for him, and I think a number will stay home.
Well, let me get to that, because I was talking to someone who's a Republican strategist, and I was asking him about the Paul Ryan pick, which, you know, there were so many different avenues that Mitt Romney could have gone in. And he said, no, this was really important that he picked Ryan because it really galvanized the base. And it seems to me that Obama appears to have a problem with his base. Labor, obviously, is a big piece of that. We just had some African Americans on our show who are not very happy with his performance with regards to them as well. Is this going to be a real issue in this election for him? Yes,
because, first of all, labor accounts for about 25% of the vote in the last few elections, labor households. And they voted overwhelmingly for the labor-endorsed candidates, i.e. 99% of the time the Democrats. Barack Obama would have been in a dead heat, probably would have lost 4 years ago without labor. The Dems wouldn't have taken the Congress 2 years before that without labor. And what makes it even more important is that they're concentrated in the industrial swing states, which are key to the election.
Where were some places where he could have drawn a line in the sand and gotten more support from labor where he didn't?
When he was in the Senate, he was a co-sponsor. He was only in the Senate a couple of years. He was not just a supporter, but a co-sponsor of the Employee Free Choice Act, what's known as EFCA. And what that would do is make it easier for workers to form a union in a plant where there is none. Because what a lot of people don't know is that it's harder to form a union in the United States than in virtually any industrial democracy in the world. It's not like workers just have the right to form a union. There's two factors. One is there's a set of labyrinthine labor laws which make it extremely complicated to form a union, time-consuming, expensive. Secondly, you've got growing employer aggressiveness against the formation of unions. One of the few expanding industries in this country is the labor avoidance, union avoidance industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry where consultants advise employers on how to block workers from having a union. The Employee Free Choice Act would have simplified the process, shortened it. And Obama, as senator, co-sponsored it. As a candidate, he pledged to sign it into law. As president, he's done nothing. He let it sit on the back burner. And that's probably the single thing that most infuriated labor.
Let's talk about Richard Trumka. He's the president of the AFL-CIO, and that is the U.S. biggest and most influential labor union. He said that labor wants to be more independent from the Democratic Party. Is this because would you say, well, I'll ask you, what do you think he means by that?
In my book, 4 years ago when it came out, one of my major points was that labor is too wedded to the Democratic Party. It functions almost as an auxiliary, an offshoot of it works as logistical troops to get Democrats elected. And to me, that is negative on so many counts. The biggest is that they're taken for granted, as we see now. And the second biggest is that they don't spend their time, and they don't spend elections when everyone's paying attention, telling the American people why labor is important. They don't tell people that 13, 14, 16 people a day are killed on the job, 365 days a week. They don't talk about how historically a strong labor movement has meant a strong middle class, and the reverse is also true. They don't talk about how hard it is to form a union in this country and that the rights everybody assumes. So they don't do that. What they do is they do phone banks and door knocking and phone and pass out literature to get Democrats elected on the hope that when those Democrats get elected, they will then grant access to labor and they will support labor. But because labor is so bent on getting them elected, there's no mandate for labor, so the public doesn't know why they should care about unions, why unions are relevant. So there's no pressure on politicians to do anything labor wants.